My name is Yulia Sinkevych. I'm Ukrainian producer, film programmer, film curator as well. Here I am as part of the Baltic Focus jury, so watching films from the Baltic region. I'm also co-founder of Ukrainian Film Academy and head of the supervisory board of Ukrainian Institute. So I do a lot in terms of institutional work in the film sector in Ukraine.
Thank you, Yulia, and we'll continue.
Hi, my name is Yevhen Titarenko. I'm a Ukrainian filmmaker. Here we present our film Eastern Front, what was shot with co-director Vitaly Mansky. Film about war in Ukraine, how it looked like, and what I can say more.
We'll talk more about that later on. Please, Marcus.
So my name is Marcus Lenz. I'm from Berlin. I'm a film director for feature films and documentaries. And together with Mila Teshayeva, I went to Ukraine when the war started, and we filmed in the region of Bucha, the aftermath of the war crimes that were just committed.
The topic of our discussion is war, documentary filmmakers of war, and the way we frame this question is, what are we for? Meaning, is there any point in filmmaking when atrocities are happening around us? We will be primarily focusing on the war in Ukraine, which is the big background of all our lives at the moment, but we'll be touching, of course, on other conflict zones too, where filmmakers have worked. But to put us in this frame of a conversation, if I may kindly ask you, and I hope it's not too painful to remember where you were, and how do you remember the morning of the 24th of February last year? Again, we'll start with you.
For me, everything was clearly understandable because I have war experience from 2014 and 15. I have a plan what to do, when first bomb, or when I hear first bombs, I'm take my family, put them to the car, and drive them to the safe place. It's like first thing what a lot of people with experience do in the beginning. Other people who don't know what to do, it was like panic. Some people start to call me. I don't see these people maybe 10 years, but they like, what we need to do, where we need to go, we don't know. Like, it's panic time.
Where have you been?
In Dnipro. In
Dnipro. And yes. What about you, Marcus? You were not in Ukraine, but
no, I was in Berlin. I was in Berlin together with Mila, and of course we discussed everything in the weeks before, and I was absolutely sure that Russia wouldn't attack. I couldn't find any reason why, and
why would they attack? You thought no rational reason.
We know some Russian reason, but I still cannot follow this kind of logic. I was, all my life I was a pacifist. All my life I was against Germany delivering weapons anywhere in the world. I would have loved Germany to stop weapon production. I felt like, okay, we don't need an army. There's possible for peace, and it's only about talking. And this day changed my life. It really changed my perception of the need to defend yourself and defend others who are facing this kind of violence.
Hanna, you are also a pacifist, but what was your reaction on the 24th? Do you remember where you were?
First of all, I was just editing the film about the aftermath of war. So I was working on the film, on the recent film which was shot in Iraq. And of course, I was just working on this editing when I found out what is going on, and I felt absolutely devastated that we have another world conflict in the world. And I mean, I understand it's a very difficult subject. It's a very complicated one, but ultimately, everything what I have seen, being in the conflict zones, because I was in the Middle East, I don't want to see all these atrocities coming and happening again anywhere in the world. And I think, okay, we can talk about weapon production and everything, but we very rarely talk about the peace, about the peace negotiations, peace of the big players, you know, the people who have the power to sit at the table and negotiate. We don't see it happening, you know, on any side, you know. There is no negotiations, and I do understand it's a very difficult subject, because there is a lot of offenses which people took and atrocities which we see and drama which is going on and suffering which is going on. But at the same time, we should stop further deepening of this conflict, you know. So this is my position. Yeah. Okay. But we can talk about this later.
We can, yeah, we can elaborate on that later. Let's finish this circle with Julia. What was your 24th of February?
Yeah, well,
like?
I was quite aware that the war is coming. I was hoping till the very last moment that it was not going to be a full-scale invasion. I was hoping, if you can say in this sense, that it will be limited on the east of Ukraine and maybe the south of Ukraine, but not the entire country as it happened. And I was prepared, actually. I had I bought some gas for my car, like I had canisters, I had some things packed, and I had a plan, so to say. But my plan was actually to leave immediately if this happens, because I was and still am very much afraid of actually what happened in Bucha and Irpin, of these atrocities, and being under occupation is definitely not an option for me, especially with my quite open position, pro-Ukrainian position, let's say. And then when it actually happened, I took a sleeping pill that night in the evening, because I couldn't sleep for 1 week normally, properly. And I was like, it's so exhausting that it cannot last forever. I mean, I will be super exhausted and we don't know when exactly this happens and so on. So I still didn't sleep well that night, but I didn't hear anything. And I only could fall asleep approximately around 5 a.m. actually. But since I live in the center of the city, I didn't really hear anything. And I only found out at 7, and my plan was completely changed at that moment, because also my parents live on the other bank of the river. The bridges were blocked, the people were escaping. We realized like there is no way. So I decided to stay, and we didn't see each other with my family for around 10, 11 days. Of course, worried and everything. And I stayed in Kiev for the first 2.5 weeks. When it all started. But yeah, of course, I mean, that day was like, you cannot believe, and you also are not used to, your instincts are not working yet. Like, you hear the siren, for example, you don't know what does it mean. You think that actually you will go out, you will open the door, and the bombs are just falling on the street. And you don't know when it ends, how bad it is, because also when I woke up, I was so shocked that I saw tons of messages and calls and everything that I needed like at least 10-15 minutes to grasp this information, to know like what is the actual situation, how bad it is, where they are. And then everything was so quick, like how they were advancing also. And but at the same time, I remember this feeling which was coming, this emotion actually, which was coming from my surrounding, from my friends, like, but no way, we are not going to give up. Like, it's not an option, like we are going to resist. And it was something which was coming really as a natural thing from inside, like probably reasonably thinking it's not reasonable, but that's what we felt. And well, of course, like nobody slept for several weeks or maybe a little bit. And yeah. Well,
I vividly remember that morning too, because we had been also following the news, of course, and the Baltics is a frontline region, just as much as Ukraine. But so we kind of were expecting that it was going to happen. and we didn't know if we were going to be the next after Ukraine. And I remember I woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning, and as in previous days, for weeks actually, the first thing is I look at my phone, what's in the news, and I see the news, and I go into my son's room, open the door, and say, "Get up, the war has started." Mm-hmm. But then, what happens afterwards? If we now focus it on filmmaking and filmmakers. I am a filmmaker, particularly if I'm a filmmaker in Ukraine. I have this question, what do I do? What is my purpose there? Am I serving my country better by picking up a camera, or am I serving my country better by picking up a gun, or doing some volunteer work to support resistance to this invasion? How did you approach this question, Yevhen, for example?
Like I said in 2014, I understand that you can't be just passive observers, like guy with cam. Maybe it's like not a problem when you go to other country, to some other conflicts. But when it's your territory and you understand you need to put on myself like second role, like do something more, not just filming. And I have some medical experience, and for me it was like in computer game, you know, you again go to the same level like in 2014, but now you like not some guy of first level. Now you're the administrator of this game, because you know the rules, you know what to do, where you must to go, and how it all works. And I evacuate my parents and go to Kyiv, like to protect Kyiv, like a paramedic and filmmaker. Like I said, I have the experience how to make both things in like one time. When I can, I shoot, when like by camera. When I cannot, it's just fixing like by body cam. And
so you are basically trying to do both. So you are still a filmmaker, but you also have other skills that can help. Okay. Marcus, you were not in Ukraine, but you have a strong Ukrainian connection through your wife. What were the first conversations, or maybe they happened already before the 24th of February? What would you do if it happened? Camera or war efforts, or both?
I mean, Mila didn't hesitate. You know, she after this full-scale invasion started, Mila basically packed her stuff. She got a helmet and a bulletproof vest somewhere, and two other women and her, they got in the car and drove with the VW Wolf like to Kiev immediately. And I tried to talk her out. Honestly, I felt like also, I mean, should you really risk your life to, document the war? I was not sure, if I'm honest. Yeah? I was not sure if it's really this thing. I stayed a while in Berlin. I started because I have a lot of Ukrainian friends. I made a feature film with a 9-year-old boy. I tried to help them to find some kind of place in Berlin, transport and so on. That was the first thing that I was doing. And then I started to feel that it's probably not enough just to have this news coverage.
Just documenting is not enough.
I mean, the way the news are presenting it's maybe not enough because we get
zoom in on it a little bit. So what is it that is lacking in this coverage? Is it kind of too narrow?
I felt that the news, what is shown in Germany, I mean, it's following the spectacular events, the explosions and so on. And I felt, but the war it goes much deeper. It's really crawling into every detail of the daily life, and we felt like this is maybe the
Oops.
Okay. Z drugiej strony. Z drugiej strony. Z drugiej strony. No,
Yes. Okay. Yeah. We will get to Alisa. Thank you for joining us. But I would like Marcus to finish your thought.
I felt that the real horror. It's not just this one event, this one moment, and then some new picture is shown. But if you stay with the people after the war crimes happen, and if you really look how will it influence the lives for the next weeks, months, and probably years. I think this is opening another aspect to see, how deep is the destruction, basically.
So you personally had a little hesitation at the beginning, but in the end you decided that the camera is your.
I felt it's what I can do. I tried to do some NGO work, but I'm not good in it. So I have this filmmaker's education, and I think it is important that we, keep, the world's attention active. I think, also in this coming months, and we need to keep the attention on this war. And there is a danger that people will get tired of it. They don't want to see it anymore. And then, maybe without the public pressure, the politics might change. I'm not so sure. I think there is a sense in doing movies, yeah.
I will bring Alisa Kovalenko in the conversation. Sorry, it's a bit harsh. You are off the road and immediately thrown into a conversation that has already started. But I would first ask you to introduce yourself, the name and the country you're from, and which film you have brought to the festival. And then I will immediately ask you a question.
Okay. My name is Alisa Kovalenko. I'm from Ukraine, based in Kiev. My film "We Will Not Fade Away" documentary film will be we'll have its Latvian premiere in 2 days here.
Okay, thank you. And the question we were discussing before you joined us is the one that I really would like to hear your perspective on. So when the war, the full-scale invasion, we shouldn't really be saying that the war started on the 24th. We need to correct ourselves all the time. So the full-scale invasion started on the 24th of February. Was there a question in your mind, what can I do best? Do I choose filmmaking or do I go and fight? And how did you deal with that?
Yeah, it was an obvious question. I woke up in a train. I was in the night train from Kiev to Donbass. I went to see characters of my documentary film "We Will Not Fade Away." My mother called me when I was in the train. It was 5 o'clock in the morning, and she told me that she heard some explosions and this Russian invasion started. And after I arrived in Donbass, I went to a small frontline village. I spent some time with my characters, with the family of one of my main characters. And at that time, I felt that I cannot film anymore. I felt useless completely. I just spent time with my characters together. We were reading news. We were discussing what to do. And I ask a lot myself what I can do now. Because, films, it's for long-term perspective. But at that time, you felt that you have to act now and do something now, change something now, help. Okay, what I can do? And first, of course, I thought that I have to help with evacuation of my characters. They're teenagers with their families in Donbass. They're all living very close to front line. So I started to persuade them to move. They refused, but for them, for 8 years, they were living in this environment. and they were saying, "Oh no, it will be not so bad. Like we used to eat. We have a Ukrainian army here. We are well protected." And they didn't realize it is such a big danger coming. It's not like it was like during all these 8 years, but they used to this reality, so they didn't feel this danger the same way. For example, like people in Kiev who never experienced like this. After I managed to evacuate one of my characters, a girl from Kharkiv, she was staying in a student's dorm under bombs and bomb shelter. We brought her to Polish border, and I negotiated with some friends, Belgian friends. They brought her to Belgium, and but even before, I already decided that I will go to fight.
Physically fight in the army.
Yeah, after I will help with evacuation. Because also I gave a promise to myself in 2015. The time I also spent a lot of time on the front line in Donbass. I was making my first debut film documentary, Alice in Wonderland. And at that time I already had this dilemma, like how to stay just director, filmmaker, who observing this reality with this distance, which camera always give you. And at that time, I decided to stay as a filmmaker, to be filmmaker. But I gave promise to myself, if this war will grow, then I will put away my camera and I become a fighter. And that's what happened. And I decided, okay, now it's really time to fulfill this promise. And I didn't feel any power inside in myself to film. Really, I felt completely useless. So I joined Ukrainian volunteer battalions and I went to frontline.
And how long did you spend there?
4 months, like almost 4 months. First it was Kiev region, and after Kharkiv region we participated to all deliberation operations in the Kharkiv region. Mm-hmm. First, like it started with the almost in the city, and after we moved towards Russian border. The last position was like very close to Russian border.
So there are different choices that people make in these circumstances. You either stay with the camera, or you try to do camera and use the skills, other skills that are useful at the times of war, or you join the army. But if we return to filmmaking, Julia, what do you think the purpose? How does the purpose in filmmaking change when you are in that situation? Marcus mentioned that one of his primary motivations to go to Ukraine and film, and the result is a wonderful film about Bucha, was to keep people engaged, informed, so let the world know, so that people don't Ukraine doesn't fade out of their consciousness. What do you think is the purpose?
This one is, of course, but there are many purposes, and I think that all the answers are right, and all the answers are possible and true for different people and for different filmmakers. And there are different stories also. Like Alice's story is one case, very significant one, I should say. I mean, it amazes me what she went through and is going through, actually. But also, I should say that on one hand, many documentary filmmakers were already experienced from 2014. They were going to the front line. They were making films about the war, different angles of it, different stories and so on. At the same time, for many, it was an entirely new situation. So they never wanted to touch the subject of the war. They didn't feel comfortable in this. But also in fiction films, let's say. But some wanted to stay distant from it and live like a normal life. But they found it, and many started to work as, let's say, as fixers, producers for international media, but at the same time making their own materials and making their own stories. And that's what you do also to have access. And we have a story of 3 people, filmmakers, 2 DOPs and 1 producer who wanted to be as close as possible to to the front line, let's say, to the actual heart of it, to all the events, to have the access first ones. And they joined the army because of this, because they wanted to be useful in the army as professionals in their profession, and only in that way they could get the access to those places and to those people who, to whom, like, let's say, journalists or other filmmakers will probably not get the access. But at the same time, they have to serve in the army. So it's everything. It's documenting the reality. It's also because many videos of our documentary filmmakers are not disclosed yet, but they will be, and they're actually the evidences of the war crimes as well. So this is one thing, and then also there are many other stories, human stories on the first place, which sometimes take a while also to finish, to finalize, and to process and to deliver to the audience. But this is something we all feel very, very much close with, emotional about, and something we are eager to speak about in our films.
A Ukrainian photographer, Max Levin, who died taking pictures of atrocities, said that he had been hoping to take a picture that will end the war. Hanna, could you identify with that quote? You want to make a film that will end atrocities.
I have to say that this whole subject is personally very difficult for me, because I have been in Afghanistan, I have been in Iraq. I think I had to touch myself what is this PTSD, basically being traumatized by war, by what you hear, what you see, what you experience, by danger, by destruction, by everything. So I feel kind of uncomfortable even here talking about it. But I have to say that, yes, absolutely. I think this is pointless, that people die on both sides. I think I understand the rage, the anger of people who are attacked, who are having their close ones being killed or raped or injured or somehow hurt or losing their house or everything. But my problem with all these discussions is we always stay on this level, you know, on the human level. And this is obvious. The neighbor comes, kills, the soldier comes, kills, the people kill each other and all of this. But where are the people who are making the decisions? Where are the weapon suppliers? Where are those who do not want to hear about peace, are not interested? Where are the people who are making money on wars? This is my biggest problem. We never touch it. You know, there is always decisions which come from the top, and then people just do it, you know, like during the Second War. Every time is like the same. We have all these armies which are supposedly preventing the genocides, the atrocities and all of this. They never do it. They get engaged in the conflicts. They not finish with one and they move to another one. I've been in Afghanistan, how many years of war? And they just left like this and went in another place. And this is my biggest problem. We are never holding responsible the people who are behind the decisions, the politicians who are actually the real war crime, the guilty of the war crimes. So unless we start holding responsible the politicians, the concrete people who are behind those decisions, and I'm not talking only one side, because these are different sides of the war, then we will have all these atrocities and people killing each other, because you have to give the permission for this kind of activities. You have to make a decision, like Putin make a decision to come and do this. Yes, we know this situation was already for a long time. But my biggest problem is with the people who are behind those decisions, who are making those big-time decisions.
If I can, excuse me, interrupt you there and steer it back to your motivation as a filmmaker. So when you are telling the story of atrocities in Afghanistan or Iraq? Is this what you are hoping to bring to the public discussion, the responsibility of the decision makers about the atrocities? Is this one of your motivations?
You know, when I was working in Iraq, we kind of didn't do. We stay with the victims, we stay with the people, with the human subject, with the human heart, with humanity, with this what ultimately always wins, with friendship, love, kindness, and all of this. So maybe my film was not really this kind of investigative journalism, but I have seen a lot of things which do not add up. Like the countries allowing people to go through the territories, supplying weapons, having intelligence, this and that. So I think it raised a lot of questions which maybe were not directly the subject of my film, but definitely brought me to look at the war from a different perspective. Yeah.
Hanna touched upon the subject and mentioned that it's hard to talk about, and I appreciate it's hard to talk about the trauma of working at war. Yet I think it is important to discuss it also in the public forum, because it is obviously traumatic both for the filmmaker who sees himself, herself, is involved and is actually serving in the army. That is even deeper, or is talking to people who have been either witnesses or victims of atrocities, which inevitably brings to trauma. Some of the colleagues die, like Mantas Kvedaravičius, who made a film about Mariupol and died there. Do you think it is a topic that is acknowledged as a problem among documentary filmmakers? Julia, I'm looking at you.
Yes, not only among filmmakers, but among people. But I think that when you are in the middle of trauma, it's not over. It's not
ongoing trauma.
It's an ongoing trauma. So you can only take emergency measures, like take some pills. I don't know, just to make the pain a little bit easier. But it will not fade away. And I think that our post-traumatic syndrome is way ahead of us. It didn't even start yet.
But this is an active trauma, which is slightly different, which also has some techniques that you can use to maintain yourself in a kind of better mental health.
There are some initiatives, let's say, like call center hotlines where you can call, not for filmmakers, but let's say for people, filmmakers can also call there. But I think that we are not reflecting yet enough. We are in a survival mode still.
I had a conversation with Ukrainian filmmaker Ivan Soutkin here in Riga, who said on this topic, and I hope he doesn't mind me quoting him, that how can we talk about trauma, because what we see is nothing compared to what is happening on the front line. Would you agree with that sentiment? No, we can't talk about it because there are people who suffer more than we do.
No, I can speak just about my experience, about my point of view. And for example, for me, after 2014 and 15, maybe 4 or 5 years, I'm trying to speak with my comrades, trying to understand, work with this trauma. No, because PTSD, it's 100% what you got after some war part of your life. I think everyone have own experience. For example, who live in Kiev and see it from window. Someone who live in Bucha and was under occupation, and it's really hard time. For example, some people who evacuate in first days and they still and live abroad, and they're still speaking about, oh, I remember first day, it was crazy, and they speak about it still. But for other people, it was like, oh, it was so long time ago. We have new traumas, like hundreds of other traumas, and I don't know. It's like weight of trauma, all very individual. We don't understand the deep of this problem yet in Ukraine. Many people trying to like speak with someone, like trying to work on it. But it's, yeah, and like someone who on front line sees some pictures, civilian people see others. For someone like no, I don't know. I think, for example, in Ukraine, many people trying to not see the war, like from 2014. It was like, oh, it's something far away, like build own bubble and live in this bubble, like close the eyes. It's not about me. And for those people, it was more harder to like when the full-scale invasion start. Like you can hide from the war, but you will not hide. It's more harder if you're trying to not see it, and when it comes, it's more harder because like you have time to like understand what is going on from 2014, how it looked like. For example, Alisa was on the front line, like many documentaries. People go to front line, see by own eyes, and start to understand. And it's I think, no, for example, for you, it was more easy after full-scale invasion because, like, no, you have experience, you know what to
expect.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
If you were living in Kiev, you basically, it was kind of in the background.
Really, for people who live in Lviv and Kiev, it was like, oh, it's so far away. It's not about me. It's not my problem. I have routine and like as a world, like it's far away. It's not about us.
Yulia, you wanted to add something?
I just wanted to add about the trauma for filmmakers, because Alisa already mentioned this, that one of the reactions on this trauma for filmmakers was that I don't see the point in film anymore. I don't see the point in my profession anymore. And I heard this so much from different filmmakers that the reality is way stronger, way more shocking that we can actually deliver on screen. So that is something I think that for many people still, for many filmmakers still is an issue to feel this connection with profession and this like a professional trauma.
So, Alisa, did you come back to filmmaking after serving in the front?
Yes, but there are many factors. First, our military base was bombed, our friend died, and I was fighting in a volunteer unit. So I had choice and I didn't sign a contract, so I could leave. But at the moment when our military base was bombed, my commander said, okay, stop. Like we stop with this volunteer unit. We all going to sign a contract because we were fighting like together with regular army, Ukrainian regular army. We did the same things, but just we didn't have salaries, no like medical insurance, like nothing. If I will lose my hand or leg, I will first go to military hospital, and after they will just send me to normal hospital. And nobody care about me. I will have no help from the state. So this was a difference. And then after all this happened, my commander said, okay, we have to sign a contract. Alisa, okay, I know that you like you want to fight, but maybe you should think, and maybe you should now fight on your culture front line, do your cartoons, how he said. No, but he was joking a lot about me. But he said, okay, but you really want to die in trenches while you can do something important maybe? And I said, no, of course I want to fight. But after a funeral of our friend who died, I back home and I had this time to think. And at the time, my family came back from France. My husband was French, and my son, 5 years old, my mother. And we had a serious discussion with my partner, who is also co-producer of the film We Will Not Fade Away, what to do after, because like if I will sign a contract, then I have to stay on the front line until the end of the war. So it can be 2 years, 3 years. Nobody knows how long it will take. And it could be not right to just abandon this project, which we were working for 3 years. And it could be completely not right even for my characters. 3 of my characters, teenagers, were already under Russian occupation by that time. And yeah, and Stefan told me, okay, you was fighting your 4 months and you didn't die, good. Like, okay, but now it's time to fight on this, like another front. So let's finish the film. That's how I started. Like I back to the editing, and we started to edit, and it was very, very emotionally hard. First, I need time to come back from frontline life to normal life.
How do you switch your mind from fighting with the gun to back to camera?
You know, like there are many films about American veterans, like coming and like how to, but it's true. It's completely true. And I felt myself like in the film about American veterans because I was like sitting, trying to answer a million of emails. Like Stefan was talking to me about world premiere of the film, I don't know, Berlinale, something, and I was like, what the fuck, Berlinale? Like I don't know, I didn't, like this was like so far from me, like Berlinale, Sundance Festival, so I was like only thinking, okay, when I can go back to my guys, to my unit, like, and I felt that I'm already guilty because I left them, because I didn't sign a contract, and I felt very deep guiltiness inside me, and I was like, I need long time to go to the normal life, and also because on the front line everything is more in contrast, more emotional, more like, I don't know, world
raw,
is different.
sort of raw, yeah.
And after normal life, everything like kind of not important completely. All these small things, they like
insignificant by comparison.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense, and it took time, you know, to back to this like river of reality, to feel again this small happiness, small joy, and also find the sense, find that it's still important to make films, and it's still important to bring stories. Yeah, and when we started to edit this film, it was also complicated emotionally because there was so like strong reality behind this, and you felt, okay, you watch your materials, but you know such a big background and heavy background, everything behind all these images. And it's very emotionally hard to edit. And at the beginning, it was even hard to cut something because, oh, this place doesn't exist anymore. You know, oh, this person disappeared.
Everything, like, you look at it like, through different lens.
Yeah, and it was like very hard to cut. It's like you cut some, like a body and like...
Sorry to interrupt, but I wanted to bring Hanna in, and if you are comfortable to talk about it, about the transition from filming atrocities, say in Iraq or in Afghanistan, and then transitioning back to normal in inverted.
No possibility.
Yeah,
I don't know
how do you deal with it? Because you've done it several times, so
like
different
Alisa
places.
is saying that you come back and you are still there. You are still in your mind. You are still in your emotions. You are still in your. I mean, it's like. People talk to you and you don't understand them because it's not important. They talk this completely different reality. So I don't know if you can transition. It's, I mean, over time you get engaged in some things and you simply forget. But small thing is triggering things even after years. I've been in situations which were very dangerous, and one sound which reminds you of something which you were in a dangerous situation makes you to fall and try to hide or something like this. So I don't know if you can, or remains, brings the remembrance, or I am watching something which is similar situation which I witnessed, and I don't even know I am already sitting up somewhere because I don't control it because the emotion comes. For a long time I also had the same situation when I was cutting something. I couldn't even cut these materials because it's too emotional, too difficult. You get psychic, you get crazy, but I don't know. I mean, it is not about me. Yeah, absolutely. As some of you, I think some of you said about this, that it's not about us because people, or you said this, that the people go through much more than we. I met people who were just for the therapy with the kids who were the victims, and the person brought the children back and said, now I need the therapy. Because obviously this is so deep and so traumatizing that is touching everybody. You touch the other people also with this trauma. But again, it comes down to me, to the fact, you know, what do we want to achieve? What is the goal? because no one really asks about the goal. I mean, we can kill each other, and we each of us have our rights. We do it even in the right reasons, you know, righteous reasons, because we defending, because we are, so we can continue, we can kill each other. But my question, after being in these places which are completely destroyed, like I say, you know, people can make a decision. Afghanistan is not interesting anymore. We just leave tons of weapons, few $1 billion equipment, and just leave. After so many lives destroyed, after so many houses destroyed, after so much atrocities, after complete destruction of lives. And this is something what I've seen again and again and again, because the more we kill each other, the more we attack each other and kill each other, defend ourselves and whatever, the more atrocities, the more families are destroyed, etc., etc. It is growing, growing, growing. And then all what stays is destruction, tears, trauma, anger, the desire for revenge. Where is it heading? My question is very simple. Where are we heading with this particular war? Where? Do we want to have an international conflict? Because this is what is happening right now. Right now, Russia is pairing with China against America, etc., etc. Where are we gonna finish this war? I'm not talking about the other war. This is done. And there's nothing left. Sorry, I have to finish it. There is nothing left in these countries. Tears, destruction, everything what you see, what you experience on both sides. Because Russians have their own bodies who they have to bury. Ukrainians have their own. I'm not saying who is guilty. I understand this. But I'm asking where is the talks about peace? We can endlessly talk about war. When are we gonna start talking about peace? About forcing the politicians to make other decisions.
Yeah, we take your point, but I will still try and refocus back on filmmaking. These are big topics that you are raising. But if I heard you correctly, you said you don't really transition back. It kind of never leaves you. That experience that you have when you are filming atrocities, there is no real transition back to so-called normal life, and it stays with you with what you do. And this is the final topic that I wanted to actually discuss. With everything you have seen through the camera lens and or in other environments without the camera. In the current war, it has, of course, changed each one of you and the stories that you will be telling from now on. And Marcus, I want to turn to you. When you are thinking about your filmmaking going forward, how is, what you have seen, how has that informed your stories that you are thinking about moving forward and thinking beyond the current war?
That's a really difficult question. Because, I mean, if you once were trying to document this kind of really existential situations, I don't know, I didn't even think about searching another topic or the next movie, or I do also feature films. I don't think I can start writing a script right now. This is really, I mean, now it is really, this war is important, and I think we all want peace. It's, obviously everybody wants peace. The question is, how do we get there, and what can we do as filmmakers to get there? That's very clear. We basically made the decision that we go back to Ukraine for the next documentary film, and that we want to follow, with the same protagonist and some others. this road, hopefully out of the war, hopefully into some Ukraine after the war that might change, or that might, at least fulfill some of the dreams that the people in Ukraine have. So that's a decision to do another film. I don't know, maybe in some years, no idea.
How about you, Yevhen? How are you thinking, looking forward? What would you be filming? What stories you want to tell looking forward?
For me, it was very important to show how it look like. Everyone have like own imagination. Some people imagine war from the books, from fiction films, and someone romanticized it, and that's why in the world we have political conversation like, do we need to give the heavy artillery? Do we need to give the planes or not? Blah, 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 blah. But usually, like about war, speaking to politics in suits who don't see the war by own eyes. And I think, our mission, like documentary makers, to grow the people to viewers, like just it's time to grow up. It's not something like far away. It's like, I think when everyone see it by your own eyes, it nivelates some naive questions, like what usually people ask. Do we need some? No, it's real life. It's how it look like. Someone try and do it, died. No, everyone, like I think, have own mission, like what help you to do it, like what I want to tell, not about maybe film, like double mission, no, second level of your mission, why are you doing it? And
yeah, thank you. What do you see as your mission going forward? I'm looking at you, Alisa.
Yes. Mission.
Mission in filmmaking.
I don't have any mission in filmmaking, actually. No, it's of course very hard to build long-term plans. Like with this film, We Will Not Fade Away, I went this way from completely lost motivation to film to actually start to believe that the power of documentary films is an important power and it can change something. And there are lots of fields. There is frontline, battlefield, cultural field, institutional field, justice field. So we have many battlefields, and each victory important on each this field. So mission, I still doubting about what I will do in my life. Or I will go back to the front line, or I will make my next film based on archives, what I filmed during my time on the front line, which I filmed not for film, but I filmed it as an archive for my son in case I will die. I just wanted to save this memory. And when I watched this material, I found it very interesting because what I filmed, and I didn't realize what I was filming. I would just film, okay, there are some grass trembling in the wind, clouds, smoke from explosions, and it's like long observational things, some faces, silent faces, waiting and waiting. And I felt so extensively this routine life. Actually, life on the front line, it's not like bach, 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 action film, Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's like waiting and waiting and waiting, and it's like endless waiting, hours and hours looking into horizon, and I never watch films about frontline like this, about this routine life, about this real life on the front line. And I was thinking that with this archive, what I have, I would like to try to make this film which can open this war from another side, from the side which usually people don't see it.
Thank you. I have one last question I'll ask Yulia. I know that the horizon for planning has shortened dramatically because of the war, and you can't really think beyond the immediate future. But if we could try, in a year's time, there's Artdocfest festival, there is a symposium, we are having a discussion. What would you hope the topic would be?
Well, for now, of course, I only hope for the victory of Ukraine, and hopefully that will be the topic. But in any case, the victory will be always with a bitter taste, always with many tears, with a lot of pain. So it will not be really celebration in that sense. But I will connect it a little bit with the question you asked before. Also, that I remember I had was taking part in the discussion in 2014. About Ukrainian films. It was in Paris, and I was asked, the Ukrainian films back then were not really known what they were back then, but I was asked, like, what are they about, or what is the forecast? And I said that unfortunately I think that there will be many films dedicated to the war, which already started at that moment, and I was afraid that that will be the face of our cinema actually for many years. It happened so, and many successful films are really about the war, and now it will be even more. And I was, as a producer, I was also thinking of what kind of project I can take, and it will be also very strange to take something which is entirely not connected with the war, but at the same time I cannot really imagine myself doing some like shocking scenes, filming atrocities, and to work with this material would be for me emotionally unbearable. So we actually are now working on the project which is about filmmakers at war. And Alisa is actually one of the characters of this film. So actually we want to study what is the motivation of artistic people, of filmmakers, how they are making different decisions, and how they perceive this reality, and what will come out of this experience for them as filmmakers. So this is something I'm working on, apart from other things, and hopefully in some years maybe I will present this film here at Artdocfest.
Wonderful.
And hopefully it will have a happy ending with our victory.
Thank you very much for a very frank and dynamic conversation. Good luck with your current and future films. Thank you, Marcus. Thank you, Yevhen. Thank you, Julia, Hanna, and Alisa. And see you next year, maybe.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And your coffee is cold, I'm sorry.